The Indiana Hoosiers have reached out to a bunch of guys in the transfer portal, but we need to talk about the ones who are coming on a visit.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this, the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, as I said, thank you so much for being here. If you're on the audio version, be sure you subscribe or follow, however you can do it on that platform, and hit that bell and notification so you never miss a new episode. And if you're on the YouTube version, guys have been killing it. And across the board, you all seem to be loving the transfer portal content. So I appreciate you being here. My everydayers, shout out to you who come back each and every day and really do make this a part of your rotation. Be sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Still making a surge to 2,200. We're halfway there, folks. So be sure you help us get to that milestone as well. As I said, Indiana has been reaching out to as many players as they possibly can, it seems like, when it comes to the transfer portal, when it comes to guards and centers and forwards and pretty much anybody they can make a phone call to. But now we have some guys that are making their visits when the dead period ends on Thursday, which is today, right? And so now you have guys who have these visits scheduled, some big-time names, ones that we have talked about on this program. And what happens, right? What's going to happen when these guys come and visit? How important, how crucial is it to have these guys and then some come and make these visits? Because there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get somebody to commit if they don't make a visit, or at least meet with the coaching staff via Zoom or a phone call or something. But most people feel that you would like to get them at least on campus, same way you do with a high school player, right? You want to get them here, show them around, show them what they'll be doing, meet some of the guys, have all of that happen so they can truly feel what it's like to be here at Indiana. And here's what your visitor list looks like so far. It's pretty good. You've got 4 guys officially on the schedule as of right now for Indiana. You have Connor Hickman coming up on April 14th, the hometown kid. We had a huge episode about him. He is coming in on April 14th. Kanaan Carlye is coming in on April 19th through the 21st, so he'll be here that entire weekend, along with Amari Williams, the big guy, who will be here April 19th through the 20th. So those 2 guys will actually be here at the same time. So that's exciting. Maybe that's a little bonus for you if you're Indiana. Have them paired together. Maybe they vibe a little bit, and maybe they decide to make a decision at the same time. And you also have a transfer visit coming from Pharrel Payne from Minnesota, who will be here later in the week. He is 6'9", 255-pound forward with 2 years of eligibility. His numbers are not going to blow you away, right? They're not going to just shock the world, but he played a good role at Minnesota. He was a sophomore this past season, averaged 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks per game. So we like to see the defensive side. Shot 60% from the field, just 47% from the free throw line. So definitely not what we're looking for there. And averaged about 23 minutes off a game off the bench. So he was more of your role player, 6th, 7th man type of thing. But a guy coming off the bench, averaging double digits, getting some blocks and getting rebounds as well, 10 and 6. I'll take that. I'll take that all day. And he wouldn't be a starter here, but he'd be a really good player off the bench. And if you remember, he had one of his best games of the season here in Bloomington. He had 17 points for that team that night, and it was a team high when Minnesota came in here. So he's a good player. I think you could all see that. I think we could all understand and accept that he's a good player. So add that to the visitor list as well. those are big names. Those are big guys. And I think that's just the start. I think more are going to make visits, and I think more are going to eventually come and check out Bloomington. And that's a huge part of all this. Get them on campus and sell them on why they should be here. And the fact that we've got these guys coming, I hope it's a domino effect. I really do. And I think it could be. I think it very well could be. You start seeing big names like Connor Hickman, Kanaan Carlye, and Amari Williams make a visit and come and check it out. And I've said this a ton of times. All of these guys talk. They all talk all the time. They text, they call, they tweet at each other, they DM, they do whatever it is that they do. And they are asking each other, hey, how'd that visit to Indiana go? How'd the talk with Mike Woodson go? What was the vibe there? Did you enjoy it? Did you have a good time? Was it worth it? Should I go? Should I at least check it out? Should I listen? Like, they all are telling each other everything about their experiences. That's just the day and age that we live in. I tell you all the time about the coaches who talk. The players and recruits and portal guys talk nonstop. I guarantee that Hickman, Carlye, and Williams are talking in some way, shape, or form leading up to their visit, and they'll be talking after their visit as well, along with Payne from Minnesota. And at this point, the Hoosiers got to get some commits. We have got to go and lock down some of these guys because we've reached out to a ton, but congratulations, here's your participation trophy. It's time to start getting some commitments and making some progress and filling out this roster, because just reaching out is not enough. Just making a phone call is not enough. Just getting them on campus is not enough. You've got to get them to sign on the dotted line. And look, I feel good about all three of those guys. Do I think we get all three? No, but I think we have a chance. I really do. And I think it would, in my opinion, I think it would be Hickman and Williams over Carlisle, but it could be the other way around. It very well could be. You've just got to now figure out, okay, we're getting them here. We want more guys to come visit. We continue to reach out to them. Who's going to fit our style the best? And I've seen a lot of you in the YouTube comments talk about how Mike Woodson needs to change the way that he coaches and the style that he has and the game planning that he has for some of these guys. And I 100% agree with you. I do. I agree with you that he cannot continue to do the exact same thing all the time, because that doesn't work. And some of these players that Indiana is interested in will not fit this system, and that has to be acknowledged. You have to understand that that's not going to work if you bring some of these guys in, and then you're going to be disappointed, and then they're going to leave, and then the fan base is going to go, they're going to lose their minds again, and rightfully so. I agree with all of that. I also agree that I'm excited about these visitors and Connor Hickman, Kanaan Carlye, Amari Williams, and now Pharrel Payne from Minnesota. Well, coming up on Locked on Hoosiers, we'll talk about a more broad topic with all of this. What happens if the Hoosiers swing and miss? What happens if we don't go out and actually get some of these guys? We'll have that for you, plus some football updates near the end as well. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked on Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked on Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Look, we've all had that horrible, miserable buying experience when it comes to tickets. You're trying to get them last minute. You buy some. You have to pay a ton of money in fees that they didn't tell you about straight up. Well, with Game Time, you don't have to worry about that. You can use the app for all of its great features. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy what's now Major League Baseball tickets with the season going on. You can go to NBA playoff games, NHL games, whatever you want to do, you can use the Game Time app to do it. Their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more is what makes the Game Time app so much fun. My favorite part about it is they're all in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. It shows you your price. Some of the others, you got to go and you got to dig and tell it to do it, and then you got to keep going and going and going to the very end. Not with Game Time. What you see is what you pay. That's what I love about the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot, your first listen each and every day. Appreciate you making that so. We're talking so much this week, and you guys have been showing so much love, and so thank you very much for that. We've been talking a lot this week and last week about all of these different transfer portal guys and all these guys that Indiana's reaching out to and the potential of what they could bring to this program and what they would do to the roster and how they would make Indiana basketball better next season. And again, that's what we're here to do. We've got to figure out who these guys are, what they can bring. Are they a true asset to this program? But I asked you this question. What happens, and I think it's possible. It's scary, but it is possible. What happens if Indiana, after all of this, the dead period's over, you've got the full transfer portal wide back open again. What happens if we swing and miss multiple times? We just keep going after these guys and we just can't make contact. And we can't land one, right? That's a possibility here. And you're not going to go into next season without anybody and not having any of your roster spots filled. Eventually, you'll find people that want to come here. But I'm talking about swinging and missing on the big-time players that you're after. I mean, there's some huge players on the transfer portal tracker for Indiana, right on the list that everybody, all the different sites and everything are making, and you can use whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter because they're all accurate. I mean, there's just so many big names on here, right? The guys that are visiting, Amari Williams, Connor Hickman, those types, but Kanaan Carlye, but you still have all of these other players and Cade Tyson and Tony Perkins and Corinne Johnson and Miles Rice, right? We've talked a ton about him. Pharrel Payne now who's visiting. Aaron Bradshaw from Kentucky. And I think there's even more. And some guys have already gone and committed to other places and elsewhere. But you've got to go and land some of these. And if you don't start landing big ones, you're going to be in trouble. Because as I said, you're going to find players to come in and transfer and take up those roster spots. Somebody will do it because it's Indiana and they want to play at a bigger spot. And they want to make that jump from the mid-majors to a Power 6 conference and a major program in Indiana. But you've got to find the right ones, man, because guess what? Mike Woodson's job's at stake here. The Indiana program has to be successful right now because a ton of you got upset yesterday with what I was saying about Indiana being a top-tier program. It is historically, but you're right. It's not right now. Not by any means. So that's why it's important. You just brought back your head coach. Look at all the coaching changes going on around college basketball. And I'm not saying that that's what Indiana needs is another coaching change right now, because whether you're in the give the guy a chance camp and he needs time to build and coach and develop whatever, or you're already tired of him and it's time to move on, doesn't matter what camp you're in. Nobody wants to truly go through another coaching change. But this is a really important time right now for Mike Woodson. If you don't go get players and elevate this roster, you're in trouble, because I told you last year's roster was good. It was good enough to win. And I think if they had a different head coach, I think they would have won more games and made the NCAA tournament. I think the starting five could have been that good. I really do. The six could have been that good, but it just didn't happen. And if you go out and start swinging and missing on these guys in the portal and your roster is not elevated, it may be full, but if it's not better, then next year is going to be worse than it was this year, because you don't have your 7-footer that's gone to the NBA. You don't have an Xavier Johnson to bail you out sometimes. Thankfully, you bring back Malik Renew and Mackenzie Mbako and Trey Galloway, but you lost your best player in Khalil Ware, and you've yet to replace him or replace anybody that is actually left. You lost a couple of guards, haven't replaced them. You have one true guard in Trey Galloway, who's a shooting guard, but you are missing so many pieces right now on this team. You cannot afford to not hit big in the portal. And I feel like we're starting to get a little panicky here. We're starting to worry, myself included, because there hasn't been anything. There hasn't been anything, and not a ton of guys have committed places, but some of Indiana's targets have, right? Well, Michael Ajayi, Gonzaga, Sky Clark, UCLA, Marcus Foster, Xavier, Gillespie, Maryland, right? I mean, some of these guys have already gone other places. And so we have to land here because the future of the program relies on it. Because if you don't get guys now, the season's going to go to hell. You're not going to have a good season. The fans are going to be all riled up. They're going to fire Mike Woodson. They're going to pay him a ton of money, and we're going to be right back at square one where we don't want to be. And I don't think this is going to happen. I think we're going to get players, but playing my favorite game, the what-if game here, what if this happens? Because I think it's a real concern. I think it's a real concern if you can't get guys to buy into what is, as of right now, a scary future, a questionable future, a unpredictable future and direction of this program, which you could say that about every program, I guess, but especially right now for Indiana, I mean, where do you think the direction of the program is right now? Where do you think it's going? How would you sell this to a recruit? It would be, let's just be honest here. It would be hard for a commit, for a recruit, for a transfer portal player to sit down and look at the future of this Indiana program and say, that's the place I want to be. I'm just being honest with you because you just don't know where it's going. Sure, it's been okay, and you just came off a bad year, but you had tournament appearances before that, but technically you're going in the wrong direction. And some guys have gone to the NBA, sure, but that's what I'm saying. There's a massive question mark on the future right now, and that's something that Indiana should change. And I think you bring in these players and you develop them and you win some games, that will change that. But you cannot afford to strike out here. You've got to bring them in, lock them down, pay them as much money as you can because, yeah, that's legal now. Crazy to say that, right? Pay them what you can and promise them development. Promise them playing time. Promise them winning. And if you adjust yourself, Mike Woodson, on how you're going to coach, how you're going to run your plays, how you're going to run the team and run the program and coach a game night in and night out, I think you don't have to worry as much. But in this time right now where we just don't know what's going to happen and the roster is slim pickings and there's so many guys out there in the portal, it's nice to know we've got visitors coming. And I would hope, and I hope that we hear good things about their visits and maybe we'll get commits while they're here. And you've got a good list so far. I expect that to grow. And I expect Indiana to get some big-time guys to commit to this team and this program for next season. I'm just asking the question, what if they don't? Coming up in our final segment of Locked On Hoosiers, a little football updates, quarterback battle, offensive line could be the best position it's been in years. Interesting. We'll talk about what Coach Cignetti had to say and what we can expect as spring practice coming to a close soon for Indiana football. That's coming up on the final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball is now in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You don't have, all you got to do is place a bet. You can win it, you can lose it, you can win it by a lot, you could get crushed. Doesn't matter. FanDuel is going to give you $150. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win with $150. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, follow the show, subscribe to the show, whatever you can do if you're on the audio version, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Flipping over to the football side of things, Coach Cignetti, head coach of Indiana football, gave us a little bit of an update on the quarterback situation and said Curtis Rourke has, quote, definitely taken a pretty significant step in spring practice. The Ohio transfer Curtis Rourke is no doubt, I mean, he's the favorite to win the job as the quarterback for this Indiana football team. And he is if you remember, he's a 6th-year senior, man. So, yeah, it's time to be the guy. It's time to be the man. He's played at Ohio for a long time, and now he's getting a chance to play some Power 5 football, which, hey, let's see what he can do, right? Coach Cignetti says, I think Kurtis Rourke has definitely taken a pretty significant step. He still can improve in a lot of different things. So, I think that's good news. I think it is exciting to hear that he's getting better, and I'm sure it's helping that he's with a higher level staff at Indiana than he was at Ohio, which is no surprise, but he can still improve is what coach is saying. And that's what the last couple of days of spring are for. And then he's got all summer long to work out. No, he won't be able to officially practice with the team, but he's got the ability to just work on himself, work with receivers, work on his footwork, have training, working out, all of those things that you are allowed to do during the summer. And I guarantee that Coach Cignetti is really putting a test on Kurtis Rourke when the fall camp starts, the first day of fall camp, to really see what Kurtis Rourke looks like. What did he do during the offseason? Well, offseason, the summer, right? What did he do to get better on his own? I guarantee that Coach Cignetti is doing that, whether Rourke knows it or not. And the reason I say that is Cignetti's already done that. He's already putting his team to these little tests that they don't fully know about. The whole solar eclipse thing was one that he did, and the team pretty much failed on that one. Kurtis Rourke is going to be a long-term test, and I think this guy's going to pass that test. I think he's that good. I think he's a 6th-year guy. That's not his first year, and he's getting better by the day. He wants to be the man. He's talked about how he wants this opportunity to play big-time football and be an impact on a big-time team, and Indiana's trying to become that. And I think Kurtis Rourke could absolutely be that for Indiana. He's taken most of the snaps of the offense this spring. Tavon Jackson has taken a ton, and Tyler Cherry is also in there as well. And I think those guys, Tavon Jackson is your competition type of guy. Tyler Cherry could be your future quarterback down the road. But, I mean, unless Kurtis Rourke just stinks it up in the fall or, God forbid, gets hurt or anything, I think he is your starter. And I just think that you don't bring him in unless you plan on fully starting him, right? Here's a quote about Tavon. He said, his improvement has been a little slower, and while he has the physical ability most of the time to get the ball from point A to point B, there's a lot more playing quarterback than that, Cignetti said. So I need to see a jump in his game in that area. So sounds like to me he can throw the ball, and he's accurate, but maybe the decision-making's not there. The heads-up awareness is not there. Making checks on the defense is not there, all that type of stuff. So the quarterback's got some room to improve and got a lot of ground to make up, if you will. But I think a good report about Kurtis Rourke is exciting. He also, this is crazy, he also says that the offensive line could be one of the major strengths of this team. How crazy is that? Something that's just not been good for this Indiana team in a long time. He says that the offensive line has potential to be one of the strengths in 2024. I cannot explain to you how crucial that is. I cannot tell you how important that is for this Indiana team to have a strong offensive line. You've watched the games. It's been abysmal. It's been brutal. And any quarterback that's tried to be here has just ran for his life and hasn't been able to survive. You bring in Kurtis Rourke, a 6th-year senior. He needs a little time to do his thing. And if the offensive line can be a strength, man, that's something you build a program on. And that's what Cignetti's trying to do here. So that's exciting as well. I think the linebackers are playing really well. They're pumped up. They're excited. They're ready to make a statement as well. And that's the good thing about this group so far that I've been hearing and seeing is, man, they're just excited to be here. They're excited to be in Indiana. They want to rebuild this thing, and they want to go out and compete a little bit. And I hope that they carry that through the summer, into the fall, and into the first game of the football season. We got a long way to go for that. But the vibes are right. The mentality is correct. And these guys want it. They got to stay focused. They've got to grow and get better. There's no doubt about that. But I think Coach Cignetti, you can see the building blocks start to be laid down for this team. Now, whether they stick, we're going to find out. But I think he's doing it the right way. And if he gets the right guys bought in, I think Indiana could surprise some folks this season come college football time. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot. Make sure you add this into your rotation. Make it your first listen each and every day. Would love for you to be a part of the Locked On Hoosiers family. If you're on YouTube, again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It takes 2 taps. It's easy. It shares it around the world so people can continue to find us. If you're on audio, subscribe, follow, however, screenshot it. I don't care. And then turn on notifications as well so you never miss a new episode. Have a great Thursday. We'll be back tomorrow. And again, as I keep saying, you never know what sort of updates we're going to have in terms of college basketball, the transfer portal, all this coaching news, Calipari officially in Arkansas. That's wild stuff too, right? All of that. And you just never know what's going to happen from day to day. So thank you so much for being here. Until tomorrow, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.